coming at you from Bellingham, Washington. This is Two Nuts in a Sack. I'm Julie.
And I'm Gavin.
Today, we got a fun little rabbit hole to jump down because this day in history, King Tut's sarcophagus was discovered in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt.
That's right. This day, February 16th, in the year 1923, the expedition led by Howard Carter and his benefactor, a rich Brit named George Herbert, the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, entered the last of the 4 burial chambers which held the sarcophagus of Tutankhamun, whom lived around 1400 BC. He died at the age of 19, but his death still remains a mystery because his body was discovered before a time when we treated such discoveries with kid gloves and care, but mostly because Egyptian scholars of old did their damnedest to erase Tutankhamun and his father Akhenaten from the historical record because of their mishandling of power.
Maybe we'll do the same someday, and Trump will be erased from the historical record.
Oh, that would be so nice.
Wouldn't it?
Just turn the lights out on that bit of history. I would love it.
Yes, indeed.
Anyhow, Howard Carter first arrived in Egypt in 1891, convinced there must be at least one undiscovered tomb in the desert surrounding Thebes. After 5 years of fruitless searching, his benefactor was ready to pull stakes on their whole expedition. Carter convinced him to hold on for 1 more year, and that patience paid off in spades. In November of 1922, Carter's team found a hidden staircase near the entrance of another tomb that had been previously looted by grave robbers. And on November 26, 1922, Carter and his benefactor first stepped foot into the tomb of an almost fully intact and untouched for nearly 3,000 years tomb of King Tut. Slowly and laboriously scouring each of the tomb's 4 rooms, the two cataloged and discovered many artifacts priceless to history. It was on this day in history, though, that the 2 intrepid explorers finally entered the 4th and final room which held the sarcophagus of the pharaoh Tutankhamun, colloquially known as King Tut. Though the permanent home of Tut and all accoutrement is at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, the treasures, including the innermost golden sarcophagus of Tut, golden shrines, jewelry, statues, a chariot, weapons, and clothing, have circled the world in a traveling exhibition called The Treasures of Tutankhamun, an exhibition I actually went and saw in Spokane, Washington when I was growing up.
That's awesome.
Have you ever seen any of these ancient Egyptian treasures?
Sorry, excuse me. I remember my mom taking me to the Egyptian Museum in San Jose when I was a kid. It was so fascinating and exciting. I saw mummies and artifacts. I remember getting a sarcophagus pencil case in the gift shop. It was pretty cool.
It's such a fascinating time. And that was such a fascinating experience, or fascinating discovery and experience for Herbert and Carter. Sadly, Herbert wasn't allowed to enjoy the elation of such a discovery for so long. He died in April of 1923. Now, I did a little deep dive on George Herbert. See, George Herbert was the 5th Earl, as I said, the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, and most of his money came from his marriage to an Almina Womwell, the illegitimate daughter of Albert de Rothschild of the Rothschild family. Rothschild gave the couple £500,000 and paid off of all of Herbert's previous deaths. So the question remains, was his death connected to the Illuminati?
Dun dun dun.
Was his death the result of a so called curse of Tutankhamun? It was written on all the walls.
Nobody knows.
Any who dare remove anything from this tomb shall be doomed. That's basically what it said. Paraphrasing, of course. Because I'm sure there were some these and thous and other old words. But
Stop connected. Stop connected.
But my favorite reference to King Tut is, and it was actually my very first reference to King Tut. And none of you people out there, please don't get mad at me for doing this, but it's just my favorite thing about King Tut. It's from a man named Steve Martin. So we're going to play this to take us out.
I'd like to talk seriously just for a moment. One of the great art exhibits ever to tour the United States is the Treasures of Tutankhamun, or King Tut. But I think it's a national disgrace the way we have commercialized it with trinkets and toys, t-shirts and posters. And about 3 months ago, I was up in the woods and I wrote a song. I tried to use the ancient modalities and melodies. I would like to do it for you right now. Maybe we can all learn something from this. King Tut. Now when he was a young man, he never thought he'd see people stand in line to see the boy king. King Tut. How'd you get so funky? Funky Tut. Did you do the monkey? Born in Arizona, moved to Babylonia. King Tut. Now if I'd known that line of just to see, I'd taken all my money and bought me a museum. King Tut. Buried with a donkey. Funky Tut. He's my favorite honky. Born in Arizona, moved to Babylonia. King Tut. Dancing by the Nile. Disco Tut. Ladies love your style. Boss Tut. Tut. Rockin' for a mile. Rockin' Tut. He ate a crocodile. He gave his life for tourism. Golden idols. He's an Egyptian. Now when I die, I don't think I'm a nut. Don't want no fancy funeral, just one like old King Tut. He could have won a Grammy, buried in his jammies. Born in Arizona, moved to Babylonia. Born in Arizona, got a condo made of stoner.
And if that ain't a kick in the sack, I don't know what is.
Okay, this is Two Nuts in a Sack signing off. Goodbye.